listening to Co-op Radio 100.5 FM and coopradio.org. It's 5 o'clock, and it's Métis Matters Radio time!
The views expressed and opinions given by myself, the host, and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of CFRO 100.5 FM, your cooperative radio network, and its affiliates and or sponsors. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Métis Matters Radio. And I'm actually here Facebook Live, or not Facebook Live. I've been I'm unable to do Facebook for 3 more weeks. Anyways, they've done this thing now. If they don't like, got some hair in my face. If they don't like what you say, no matter what it is, and it's not always politics. If something you don't agree with regarding even certain things that are going on there, and basically what they're doing, they create this new version of standard guidelines. If it's not about kittens and animals playing, and if you're voicing an opinion, and even if you're saying something regarding COVID, right, something like that, then next thing you know, you're done. They knock you out, and I got knocked off for a few more weeks. So I'm unable. I can do Facebook. I can go into Facebook. I can talk about stuff, but they won't let me do video live because for some reason, ever since they've had I guess it must be something to do with Donald Trump and Biden, but whatever. I never made an opinion between both those two, ever. Not a word. But for some reason, I guess whatever I said, they took it to heart and said, nope, we don't like what you've done. And I'm a Canadian, man. I'm not even American. But they knocked me off. And I asked them for the reason, and they just said, sir, all they wrote in there is our Canadian standards. I looked in there, looked for the problem. I have no idea what I did wrong until I went a little bit further in, and actually someone got into my Facebook, or actually replicated my Facebook, pretended to be me, put some nasty stuff in there that I never would have said, and I guess they thought I was the guy, and they knocked me out. So I wrote to them, and I shared with them my issue. So let's see here. There we go. Yeah, I showed them what was going on, and I guess Facebook didn't like what supposedly I was supposed to say, but I didn't say it. But somebody else's words were using my words or whatever. They put it in that Facebook page. It was not even my page. It was somebody that made a page like mine. I'm sure it's happened to everybody on Facebook. Everyone has got hit with it. So Sharon in the chat room. Thank you for joining us in the chat room, folks, as well. Sharon says, I can't see anything. You can't see anything. I'm in the chat room. Can you see me now? So, yeah, I'm not Facebook Live. I'm not in there right now, so I'm just in the chat room here. in YouTube. So I hope you guys are able to see me. I'm not in the dark. I'm in the light. Go to the light. So yeah, I'm here. Anyways, it's nice to see all folks here. And I've been scrambling. I was actually trying to do the whole thing here is I wanted to respectfully honor our veterans, our Métis veterans, and I want to do a program that relates to all of this. And for some reason, I don't know why, but YouTube decided to remove all and anything that relates to military out. Yeah, they took anything and everything that do with the military out. Even I was wanting to use the music to honor the veterans. I want to use that music just for our program. They removed it. So I guess for some reason they are doing a cleanup, but they're doing a cleanup. They're going too far. They're making it more than it's supposed to be, I think, and especially for us Canadians, because this is a Canadian military song, and I wanted to play a song, that particular song, as a backup song to honor the veterans and honor those that way that given our lives for us in our country in Canada. And well, some people call it Turtle Island, we call it Kanata, and yeah. So what I wanted to do at first, I had a brainstorm, and I wanted to, us Métis, we do have, some of us actually, our language of Michif language is not mischief, it's Michif, Michif. Our language has been depleting, and so we're trying to, I guess, bring back, the history of of creating, I guess, we'll bring back our language, so that language is not forgotten. It's just like Cree or French or any other kind of language in some country that most people don't always go to. But to see us as Michif people, we spoke Cree French mix, right? And anyways, I've learned some of my Michif, but I've never learned all of it. And so I was hoping that I would have a couple of elders that can translate one of our writings that Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae had wrote in 1915. It was a poem, and just before he died, because he was on the battlefield at the time, and most people don't know that, because the thing is that most kids in schools today, and I mean, a big shout out to the kids. I mean, they're having a hard time as it is. They are the little warriors because they're trying so hard to please a teacher, but they're also trying so hard to please their parent. And there's too much, my feelings are, there's too much government control for these kids. They can't breathe, so to speak. And I'm outspoken on that. I don't like kids being masked. It's not necessary, but they're forcing everyone to wear masks in schools, and some kids are having difficulty with their health right now. But anyways, they're little warriors to be, and these kids are trying so hard to make things happen. But a lot of the young ones today, and our last generation, has no idea what the military has been doing for us, fighting for our country to be free. And during the Second World War, and as well as other wars, the Korean Wars, there was wars in other parts of the world that people have fought, especially our Canadian soldiers. And they were actually called, like, I remember my good friend, the late Bob Kelly, Moosh and Bob, he would tell me stories regarding the Métis. And what Bob would say, he says, originally, they're called the Canadian Armed Forces, not Canadian soldiers. They were called the Canadian Armed Forces. And the reason why they're called the Canadian Armed Forces or Canadian Peacekeepers is because they were peacekeepers. That means that we don't shoot people because, they don't send you out there and go shoot people. What your job was to defend the land that you're on, you're assigned to. Whatever country you go to, and you don't shoot someone unless they shoot you first. Go figure that one. Bob also said to me too that they had to count their bullets, not because our country was cheap, because that's the way it was. We are a passive wave soldier. These soldiers, our people will give their lives for those that will live, because we, in our country, we don't have guns to defend ourselves. We don't. We have guns, rifles, but we go hunting with them, but not handguns to go and defend yourself. And you don't carry a gun on your person. In our country, we don't do that. But for some reason, um, we've had, like in our country, we've had so many things happen to us. And like, again, also, again, everyone, thank you for joining us on Metis Matters Radio. But what happens with the veterans that have fought for us, then we got, like I said before, they were called the Canadian Peacekeepers. And our last Prime Minister, not Trudeau, anyways, he actually changed the name. I don't know why. I have no idea why he changed the name. And everyone was upset about it. In fact, even the soldiers were upset about it because they're told to change the name. So we found out later, when they were called the Canadian soldiers, that means that they were sent out to shoot first. So when I found this out, Bob was really upset. A lot of the veterans I talked to were really upset about, because you're not supposed to do that. They changed the word Canadian Peacekeepers to Canadian soldiers. I mean, that was, so basically they're making us like as if we were supposed to be out there to defend, but our country is the most peaceful country in the world. That's the way we're supposed to be at the beginning. Like, basically, my mom, I remember her telling me that when I was a kid, my mom, when she was a little girl, her and her mom used to make socks, wool socks, for the soldiers during the Second World War back in the 1940s. And they would actually send those socks out, and it just says unknown soldier, but they would send the socks out to whomever receives them, because it was cold in the fields, or cold on the battlefield, so to speak, or just plain cold, especially in the winters. And everyone volunteered, and a lot of people gave up a lot of their own personal money to get the wool and make lots of socks. And my mom made a lot of socks as a little girl, but because everyone volunteered to do that. And I'm not sure if it's ever been done in the States, but I do know in our country, in Canada, that we did. Whatever they were able to do to help out our soldiers, that's exactly what our country did. A lot of people take it for granted. A lot of people have taken our country for granted. And also, we are noticing, too, a lot of our veterans are being disrespected. The public has no knowledge of why these veterans are asking for a donation for these poppies. Well, these poppies, folks, what I'm wearing in my lapel right now, this is what you may not see on the radio program, but I wear a purple poppy. And the reason why I'm wearing a purple one as well, this represents the animals that were sacrificed during the military times, because they actually had the workhorse, and they actually also had the dog. Most of the time, the German Shepherds. And they would use these dogs specifically to sniff out bombs, explosives, and the horses were to carry or run with a certain packages that had to be at a specific location. And I'm sure you will see or read a lot of books regarding the workhorse. Or sometimes if a certain tank would get stuck and they can't get it out, or even truck, they would have some extra horses on hand to pull them out of the mud. This is because basically a lot of times too, they would get caught up in rainstorms, snowstorms, and so the horses are there specifically to help them out. And so that's all they're like. Again, a lot of these animals gave their lives as well, because humankind took them and used them for that service. So the thing is that we need to acknowledge also not just the men, but the women as well. There are women that were also that were assigned to do their job. And a good friend of mine, the late Teresa Dion, she worked in an ambulance. So basically, she was a soldier, but she actually was with the Red Cross ambulance, and she was actually helping the soldiers. So she saw a lot of blood. I mean, really a lot of blood. Ken Fisher, who actually is one of the original radio talk show hosts here of Métis Matters Radio. He himself was also in the Navy, and he didn't do service like a really like they didn't call him out to do service, but he was ready to go at any time. I don't know everything what that Ken had done, but I do know that Ken tried his darndest to get out there to do, to go do diligence in battle, so to speak. But he became a photographer, so I think it's a lot of times too. He was trying to photograph as many soldiers and veterans and people. Whenever time there was Remembrance Day, Ken was out there, and he was making sure that you don't forget, and like that's exactly what this is all about. I mean, I know, I mean, like I said myself, last week on my program, I talked about trying to get, I had a great idea when I talked to Teresa Dion, Bob Kelly, and a lot of the veterans, and they agreed, we need to have our Métis flag to be carried in the color guard, because a lot of the Métis and Indigenous men and women actually gave their lives. Now, during the Second World War as well, which you may not know, folks, but a lot of the Canadian soldiers, they lost about 1.5 million soldiers, Canadian soldiers, on the front lines to fight with the Americans by their side. And they were on the front lines first. They volunteered to be on the front lines. They weren't assigned to be there. They joined in. Now, basically, back then, those years, I mean, in the States, you are chosen, okay, by the government. But here in Canada, we don't shoot. They don't take us. They don't say you got to be a soldier. You volunteer, and a lot of our young people volunteered, and secretly, I'm sure you may not know this, but a lot of the young men didn't have a job at the time during the Second World War. So a lot of them actually joined the military secretly, pretending that they were actually 18, 19 years old. But yet most of these boys were 16, and they took a chance. They took a chance and got away with it. Most of them did, because they wanted to be on the front lines. They wanted to go out there. They just wanted to make sure they didn't starve to death. But meantime, they fought for their country. I mean, I hear so many stories, and a lot of these, and even some people fought in Vietnam. Some people fought in Korea. A lot of Indigenous men fought in Korea. A lot of the men were actually Cree code talkers. Bob would talk about that as well. Cree code talkers, and the Cree code talker was, a lot of times the Germans would know the English language if you wanted to try to pass, secret messages across the telegraph or whichever have you. At the time, yes, folks, there was telegraph, not cell phones and say, here, I'm going to call my friend. And the telegraph was mostly ... right? Morse code. Well, and then basically they would assign a lot of the Indigenous men to be the code talkers. So they were speaking Cree, they were speaking Navajo, and they're translating it from German to Navajo, or from English to Navajo, or Navajo, and then they would translate it from Navajo back to English. And that's how they're able to succeed in the military, succeed in the war, and succeed in some of the supposedly bombings. To go to hit up on certain places that the American soldiers or Canadian soldiers were supposed to get hit but didn't, because the Navajo or the Cree or the Lakota, a lot of American and Canadian Indigenous Métis men were in the Second World War, and they fought side by side with the non-Indigenous men and women. Another good fellow that was well known for his being very well known was Tommy Prince. Tommy Prince, the late Tommy Prince, he also gave his life for this country. And again, another fellow who was Cree First Nations, Métis as well. And but he did outstanding work. There's so many unnamed soldiers that sacrificed their life. And like Bob Kelly, like he himself was a peacekeeper, and the beret he wore was a light blue beret. It was not a red beret, wasn't a black beret, it was a blue beret, light blue, and that means he was special forces himself. Big shout out to everyone here and their families. So I have been doing my research for many years and and I'm getting to know a lot of the men, because my father was in the military as well, because he actually was assigned in Manitoba, and there was oh my god, I've been trying to get online so quickly, or um, I was so frustrated trying to get on here since the very beginning, because YouTube was messing around so much, making it hard for everybody to get online. And like I said before, I had no Facebook for. I have no Facebook Live. Won't be able to do Facebook Live for the next few more weeks. They're saying 18 days. Well, we'll see what happens. Anyways, and then they'll say don't do it again. Right. Um, anyways, I'm trying to get as much information out as possible to let you folks know the truth, because basically a lot of our, and like Bob used to say before, they would see a veterans monument, and they would see all the non-indigenous people on the monument memorial pay and the memorial. Uh, oh my God, my brain is just off right now. Anyways, I wish somebody was here that was they would one of the veterans that was here can probably just tell me exactly what to say. But anyways, um, we would always place a wreath in a specific site, a location, and then every year since when Bob was alive, I'd make. I had a brainstorm one day, and I said, Bob, I'm going to make a different kind of wreath. I'm not going to get these fake ones to honor a veteran. I said, I'm going to make something out of cedar. So I would get some cedar wreaths or cedar boughs and make it into a wreath, and then I would get some fabric and make them into look like poppies, and then I would take it to a certain location, to wherever the veterans legion is, and I would lay one there. So I did that for years, a lot of years. I stopped doing it. I don't know why, because I lost all my friends. Like all my veteran friends. I only have maybe one left, but and I haven't been in contact with him for a long time because of the COVID. So it's difficult. We're trying to stay in touch with each other, but it just doesn't work. But anyways, well, actually, I have another one too. She's still living. She's awesome. But I mean, everyone's still trying to stay on their feet, so to speak. The thing is, what I find is important that we need to remember, folks, is that the poem that was written by Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae, and they decided to call it Flanders Fields. I think because maybe the location itself actually had the name of Flanders, right? And so I want to share this with you guys myself on here. So what the Flanders Fields means. So here's what he had wrote. In Flanders Fields, the poppies blow. Between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky, the larks still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Fields. Take up your quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw. The torch be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep though poppies grow in Flanders Fields. And that's basically what, and I made this up, like a copy of it. But I wanted to do this because it's important that when he wrote this last poem, I mean, most people were writing letters to their families before, they died, and then they would send letters, whoever the letter carrier was at the time, and they'd rush it to the bases and say, here's a letter for my loved one, so to speak. But after he wrote this poem, then he died on the battlefield. So this actually became an important memorial poem. And I feel it's important that, whenever you see this, folks, and I really like to say this, it's important that we actually, begin to respect our veterans more. And you will see, I mean, I may be throwing off things like crazy. I might be acting a little weird lately, but there's so many things that I take to heart that are so important to me. And regarding the veterans, I mean, Bob Kelly gave me the right to be involved in powwows, and as in to bring the veterans in the grand entries, because they are the ones that carry the Eagle staff in. and I was presented in an important position, and I've been doing this over 20 years. Um, so I've learned a lot from the veterans, an absolute, quite a bit from them, and they would tell me stories, and it was always interesting. But the man who actually, like I said before, the man who changed our Canadian Armed Forces history was Prime Minister Harper. And I don't know why Harper decided to change the word from peacekeepers to military, but I think because to him, I possibly maybe he's going to make money on this, or they were wanted to make us more militarized. I have no idea. I have no idea. But all I know is that a lot of the Canadian peacekeepers or Canadian soldiers now weren't too happy about it because they've been known for having a very respectful reputation, right? Anyways, also including this, I mean, if you think about it, folks, this is a continued generation, and my father, like I said before, my father actually himself actually was in the military, and also was my uncle. My uncle actually was a helicopter pilot stationed in Portage la Prairie, and so we're in Manitoba. So he was a helicopter pilot, and my dad was stationed as infantry, I think, and I was in Camp Shiloh. That's where he was stationed. And I even have a letter that I've never seen in my life until after my mom passed away. There was a letter written to my mom when I was 1 year old, and my dad wrote to her from Camp Shiloh to say, "How is my little boy doing?" Not bad, eh? That was pretty cool having to read a letter, your mom's letter, and your dad's asking how I'm doing. Like he misses not having me around him. But I've always felt was important that we always need to, again, before, and I'll repeat over again, we need to start spending more time with our veterans and get to know them, get to spend some, and then you're going to see a lot of veterans now lately, and you'll whether see it in Canada or United States, you see a lot of homeless veterans. They're not getting paid the proper money that they should. When they come home, they're supposed to get paid properly. They're supposed to get paid severances of, because they're home. The government's supposed to cover that. But apparently, what I understood, not all the veterans are getting this. So it's something's got to be done, and I'm not sure what's going to happen. But it's changed up so much. But like I want to say is that if you do see a veteran, anytime that you see a veteran and he's selling poppies to raise money for for the veterans and the programs that they do, bring them over a cup of coffee or a sandwich or something. It's important that it's just and even once in a while, it doesn't hurt to listen to their story, because you can ask them, where were you assigned, where were you stationed, what did you do? And they love to tell the story because they take great pride in it. We have to understand one thing, folks. Anybody who was in the color guard, anyone who was in the military and had served, they were there specifically to protect this country and your generation. And it's still happening today. We have young soldiers still happening, young Canadian Force, and people still want to join the Canadian Forces, and they're out there and they're standing up for you. They're fighting for you. Now, I'm not saying they're in the military. They're not at war right now, but they're stationed in locations, all parts of the world. And you need to understand, folks, they're doing this for you. Okay. And it's something that it's important for you to understand. I just feel my heart that needs to be acknowledged. Okay. So there's actually a song that a fellow by the name of Terry Kelly, who, I mean, I wish I could bring it up on my screen, but for some reason it's unable to do that. But Terry Kelly wrote a song back in 2008, and this song here makes a whole lot of sense. And it's actually on YouTube. It's called "A Pittance of Time," and it relates to where you come into people coming into a market and the guy was coming to a store, him and his dog and his child, and they were going shopping. And then they were asking people on the microphone or on the speaker if they can spend 1 minute or even 2 minutes of time, so then they get to acknowledge the soldiers that had fallen. And for some reason, the father was just irritable, and he was actually picking on the cashier, telling her to, hurry up, I want my food and I want to get out of here. And everyone was standing around, and they stood there to acknowledge the veterans. So here's that song, and I'm going to see if I can turn the video onto it too as well. If you don't see it, folks, actually look it up. It's called A Pittance of Time, Terry Kelly.
At 11 o'clock on this 11th day of November, we'd like to invite you to share with us 2 minutes of silence in honor of our veterans. They fought and some died for their homeland. They fought and some died, now it's our land. Look at his little child, there's no fear in her eyes. Could he not show respect for other dads who have died? Take 2 minutes, would you mind? It's a pittance of time for the boys and the girls who went over. In peace may they rest, may we never forget why they died. It's a pittance of time. God forgive me for wanting to strike him. Give me strength so as not to be like him. My heart pounds in my breast, fingers pressed to my lips. My throat wants to bawl out, my tongue barely resists. But 2 minutes I will bide. It's a pittance of time for the boys and the girls who went over. In peace may they rest, may we never forget why they died. It's a pittance of time. Read the letters and poems of the heroes at home. They have casualties, battles, and fears of their own. There's a price to be paid if you go, if you stay. Freedom's fought for and won in numerous ways. Take 2 minutes, would you mind? It's a pittance of time for the boys and the girls all over. May we never forget our young become vets at the end of the line. It's a pittance of time. It takes courage to fight in your own war. It takes courage to fight someone else's war. Our peacekeepers tell of their own living hell. They bring hope to foreign lands that hate mongers can't kill. Take 2 minutes, would you mind? It's a pittance of time for the boys and the girls who go over. In peacetime our best still don battle dress and lay their lives on the line. It's a pittance of time. In peace may they rest, lest we forget why they died. Take a pittance of time.
Honey. Honey!
I really wanted a coffee.
Where are you? You've been there forever.
Come on. You know what? You think you're the boss.
But I'm the boss here. Derrick will be right back after he gets my coffee.
Do you need high-quality, sustainably produced materials for your campaign? Branding, video, or design for your grassroots organization? The Vancouver Artists Labor Union Cooperative provides all of this and more from our Chinatown studio. Our fully unionized, artist-run co-op provides fair, secure, and flexible employment for arts and cultural workers while producing top-shelf services. To find out how Value Co-op can elevate your image and bring visibility to your campaigns, email us at orders@valuecoop.ca or visit our website at valucoop.ca. Value Co-op, where art and labor meet.
If you want to listen to us anywhere you travel, you can go into your Google Play Store and then download the Radio Player Canada app, and you can listen to your favorite radio station, Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM. Hi everyone, I'm Derrick Whiteskycloud from Metis Matters Radio. I'm on Wednesday nights at 5 o'clock. Vancouver Cooperative Radio is an innovative non-profit radio station and recording studio with a mission to produce creative and engaging programming for communities whose voices are unrepresented in the mainstream media. We need your financial support to help us achieve this mission. By donating today, you'll help us to continue providing access to training and equipment for over 300 volunteers who produce over 140 hours of original programming in over 10 languages. We strive to provide programming that does not discriminate against people on the grounds of sex, race, age, class, ability, orientation, or anything else. Since 1975, we have celebrated the rich cultural diversity of the greater Vancouver area through our arts, our music, and spoken word programming. Donate today by visiting coopradio.org
or calling 604-684-8494.
Yeah, we're back. That's J.J. LaValle, Three White Horses, or Three Men and a White Horse. Yeah, Three Men and a White Horse. Yeah, good friend of mine. This man actually is a two-time Indigenous. I'd say he won twice as a fiddle player for the Indigenous Awards here in Canada. Very talented man. And he's written a lot of songs and has played quite a few. Anyways, we're back. Thank you for joining me on Metis Matters Radio on the CFRO 100.5 FM. If you actually want to hear any of the programs or some of my archives, you can go to www.coopradio.ca. Coopradio.ca. I think it's .ca or .org. I think it's coopradio.org. Okay, I'll get that back. I'll figure that out again. Oh my God. I've been stressed. Well, I'm not going to say stressing myself out. I've been trying to have everything all ready to go as far as the our Veterans Day, our Remembrance Day event. I was trying to get the music right, and for some reason, YouTube and all my programming was just not coming together. And I thought, okay, I'm going to just play along and see what happens. So I am. So yeah, that's where you got me here. Okay. Anyways, we're back, and we're actually be talking about other things too. Now, we also have been celebrating Louis Riel Day, and as well this last week. Everyone was. Now, some of you may not know, Louis Riel actually is one of our, I guess to say, founding fathers of our Confederation, besides Johnny MacDonald, who actually was our first Prime Minister of Canada. And to tell the story about Louis Riel, he was actually accused of being a traitor of Canada. And this is the reason why a lot of people that are become citizens of Canada or want to become citizens of Canada, they have to read all of or study the Canadian history. In that book itself, it says that Louis Riel is a traitor of Canada, and he's not. Never was. He was a defender. He was trying to protect the Métis people. And John MacDonald was very, I would say, evil man in some ways, because he wanted Riel dead out of the way because Riel was too smart. Because number one, Riel actually practiced to be a lawyer. He actually was, as a boy, he studied at the age of 16, become a Catholic priest. I mean, he's got two credentials in front of him, right? But for some reason, MacDonald was trying to do his darndest to destroy this man's life, and so he decided to say, "Okay, I'm gonna take you to. I'm gonna find some easy way to get to accuse you of something," and that's what they basically did. They made it where someone made up a story that Riel killed women and children in a village somewhere up west, but never did. In fact, the time that they made the accusation, that man was having dinner with his family at his home in Batoche and in the area, Onion Lake and Batoche and all that. And so, it's a beautiful place up in Saskatchewan. So MacDonald said, okay, send out the soldiers, and they brought out Gatling guns and cannons, and they were going to go kill, and they said, wipe them all out. And not just Riel, everybody. We're going to kill everyone. We're going to wipe out every Métis you can think of. So that's where it started. Gabriel Dumont decided, someone came to the door and told Riel that the soldiers are on their way and they're going to attack and kill everyone. Well, he got a hold of Gabriel Dumont. Dumont started helping him. It was a battle in itself. That was he was his general, so to speak. But Riel was noticing that people were dying, and he didn't want that. He was defending. The MacDonald was calling it, the Battle of Batoche, but it wasn't a battle. It was they were actually defending themselves. So it was, that's the way it was. But the battle was started by MacDonald. So Riel did not want to see other people die. He was, in fact, Riel actually had 19 sharpshooters, and to shoot back and protect. These guys are good. They killed over 100 soldiers. Okay, now these soldiers back then, those years, were the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and they were actually not called the Royal Canadian Mounted Police at the time. They were given a different name, but the same uniform, right? So that's because basically your RCMP are actually soldiers. They're not really a police, but the Queen changed the name from soldier to policing. But they were basically the RCMP, the Royal Mounted Police. They were under the Queen's water, on the Queen's water. So basically, they're defending the land, not the land, but the water. So, yeah, that's basically how it works. So basically, MacDonald just said, okay, telling the Queen, we want to go after Riel, and she says, yeah, go ahead. Okay. So they did. The Queen Mother was the one that had it ordered to happen, because the Queen Mother was around then. Yeah, I would say so. I think so. Could be wrong. Maybe the King. I'm not sure. Now I'm not sure again. Anyways, we're here. And so the whole story really is that MacDonald wanted Riel dead and out of the way, so he accused him as being a traitor to Canada. Riel gave himself up. Basically, he put up the white flag and said, no, I don't want my people to die. He put up the white flag, surrendered. And so when they took Riel into jail, and automatically he had his own Protestant jurors, think about the words, folks, Protestant jurors, and had him accused of traitor. Now, Riel was not allowed to speak for himself because they put him under the guidelines of being crazy. Okay, and that was actually an old law that was passed. Now, I'll give you an example. This is the BC Métis Federation actually had written a letter to the Federal Senators, Government of Canada. And it says here, the demand to exonerate Louis Riel. Dear Métis Indigenous Senators, I am writing in my capacity as the elected president of the BC Métis Federation, which represents approximately 3,500 Métis people in British Columbia. Each year we have been commemorating the wrongful execution of one of our most important historic leaders for the Métis people, that being Louis Riel's death in Regina in November the 16th, 1885. We've held numerous events, lectures, and requested the provincial government as well as municipal governments throughout BC to raise the Métis flag as a symbol of this historic event for the last number of years. We are now on the eve of Louis Riel's 135th anniversary, and we are demanding that action is immediately taken to exoneration Louis Riel. The federal government has boasted about reconciliation for all Indigenous people, and therefore tangible steps must be taken to demonstrate this commitment for all Métis across Canada. We know that not all Métis organizations seem to agree with exoneration, but this appears to be their political opinion, and must not cloud the fact that Canada perpetuated an injustice which must be corrected. Louis Riel's hanging was wrong, and to leave his memory as convicted as guilty is no longer acceptable for many grassroots Métis across Canada. BC Métis Federation has agreed to continue fighting for Louis Riel's complete exoneration with the new partners such as the cities of Montreal and Toronto. Their city councils are expected to pass motions to support and a motion to exonerate Louis Riel. The BC Métis Federation wrote to the Federal Crown Indigenous Relations Minister Bennett and Indigenous Services Canada Minister Miller on November the 2nd, demanding actions towards exoneration of Louis Riel, 2020. We have yet to have a response. We also held a national media event supported by several organizations and secured significant media coverage last week. Now, I am writing today to ask for Senate support. Your colleague, Senator McFadden, has been exceptional to understand why the exoneration of Louis Riel is needed now. Although I am living in British Columbia today, I have deep family connections to the events in 1885 in Fish Creek and Batoche. My family had Metis script here and were present during the events in 1885, and it left deep scars to our families and generations of negative effects. Therefore, I am asking each of you to show leadership and do what is right for our historic leader, Louis Riel. Most Métis people do not feel reconciliation when we reminded that our historic leader is a convicted criminal, which we know is simply not true. We must correct this painful memory and ensure Canadians understand how historic Métis leaders such as Riel were crucial to bringing Canada together while trying to support our ancestors. Now, Louis Riel deserves our respect and complete exoneration of his role in 1886, no different than what the federal government supported with First Nations Chief Poundmaker in 2009, because he was also exonerated. It is time to show leadership, compassion, and tangible efforts for Métis reconciliation. Thank you, Keith Henry, President, BC Métis Federation Board of Directors, BC Métis Federation Operational Team, and BC Métis Federation Partner Communities. So, folks, the paper is here. Okay, so they did send that to them. I'm hoping this letter was actually sent out November the 9th, 2020. So I'm looking forward to seeing a response back, because I mean I've talked to Keith about it for years. I've talked to Dale Haggerty, who's my good friend, my best friend, brother, for years. I said we got to get him exonerated. And one thing I'm getting from this, and I'll be honest with you guys, there are people that are not wanting us to exonerate him, and that actually those are the people in Winnipeg. The Manitoba Métis Federation does not want Riel exonerated. You know why? Because if he is exonerated, no more money comes to the Manitoba Métis Federation. Did you know that? Because he's exonerated, he's cleared. That means that the government doesn't have to feel guilty anymore, because the apology was taken care of. And that's why they don't want even the ancestors to Riel. I'm connected to Riel here. Okay, Lagemondier. But yet Lagemondier was part of Riel's family, the grandparents. But am I going to get any? My cousin lives in Winnipeg. And yet, are we going to get answers from this? Are there going to be a yes or no from Ottawa? Don't know. Because the thing is that as long as David Chartrand and Clint Charchet, they don't want this to happen, because to them, it brings them money. Their investment is in Riel. That's why they call it Red River. Their investment is, if you guys need to think about this, they are using Riel as their money maker. Think about it, because the Manitoba Métis Federation are the only ones that make way more money, more dollars, in the millions, coming into their own organization than any other organization in Canada. No others. They're the biggest money maker in Riel's history. They profit from this because they're not exonerating him. I know, and they'll say, "Oh no, we want exoneration." They'll do this. "Oh yeah, we want exoneration." They already know that no one's making an effort. Meantime, give me the money, right? So that's what they're doing. Think about it. That's how I understand it. That's my opinion, right? I'm sure you guys will have an opinion too. Love to hear from you. Now, I will let you guys know. Thank you very much for being part of our of Métis Matters Radio, as well as on YouTube. This is, like I said, my second time on this one. I didn't give myself any time to really sort things out, what's going to happen in the studio, but in the chat room. But I will say this, now this is recorded, and I'll have this ready for you guys to be shared on Facebook, and you can have a look at it and review it. I'm sure you're going to have a few words. Like I said before, let's see. There's also a fellow by the name of, okay, there's one here that I wanted to say here. No, that's not the one. There is it. All but one more here. Regarding, oh, yes, I want to talk about this. 3 days ago, the BC Métis, sorry, the Métis Nation of British Columbia. This is not the BC Métis Federation. This is the Métis Nation of British Columbia. Here in Surrey, between Surrey and New Westminster, the MMBC wants to change the name of the bridge to Reconciliation Bridge. Number one, MMBC, they didn't want nothing to do with reconciliation at the very beginning. I was the only one that was involved in Truth and Reconciliation back in 2008. I met up with 250 people from across Canada. We met up in Calgary, and at a location where it was the location where everybody had to meet in Calgary. We did our Truth and Reconciliation. I represent the Métis at the time. There's nobody that came with me. Nobody came down. I mean, just the First Nations I was with, but that's just me. I represented. But the MMBC didn't want nothing to do with it. No, our Métis people never went to residential school. No, they never went to residential school. Yes, they did. But they don't want you to know that. They think that, sure, they were also some of them were 60 Scoops kids. But our Canadian government does not want to give us or help us whatsoever that we went to residential school. I went to residential school, very brief. When my school found out back in the 60s, when they found out that I was part Native, history, buddy, you're gone to residential school, right? But I was and they couldn't harm me because I looked too white. So and when it comes to certain times that I didn't agree with the priest, they'd lock me up in a room, right? Just to make this really brief and short. But so MMBC actually got their nose in it, and now this is what they said. This weekend, the BC Métis Nation BC, not our BC Métis Federation, made public statements in the media about renaming the Petula Bridge the Reconciliation Bridge. Now, this is an aging bridge in the lower mainland of BC due to be replaced in the coming years. It is a major connection for vehicles between Surrey and New Westminster. One of the reasons many Métis across BC have chosen to leave the Métis Nation BC individually or choose to become members with the BC Métis Federation for the first Métis membership card is the consistent missteps with First Nations by Métis Nation BC. We see another political misstep as Métis Nation BC appears to be trying to garner some form of public or political grab. The reaction from many local lower mainland First Nation personalities and leaders have been sharply critical about why Métis Nation BC is the media trying to name this bridge. BC Métis Federation thinks the idea might be good to rename the new bridge honoring Indigenous proprietaries, but it's about understanding local Indigenous protocol and understanding what the reaction might be in the best interests of your local Métis members. Now, instead of a good outcome to see more division between First Nation Métis interests, which is up to our Métis leadership, is to try to prevent. Now, this is the latest example of what's going on. Now, this is actually between Surrey, British Columbia, and New Westminster. Now, I'm sure you guys, some of you actually have traveled the bridge itself, and it's actually falling apart pretty well. But anyways, when I understand that there is a fellow who I had seen his name on Facebook, and his name is Sam Bob, and Sam Bob actually is First Nations. but he's of this territory, the Kwantlen. So basically in that territory is the Kwantlen, Katzie, and Semiahmoo territory. And there's one more. So once you go into the New West region, there's another territory. So what's important that they said, those are already named areas. MMBC, keep your nose out of the business. It belongs, this is unceded territory, it belongs to the First Nations people in that territory. Let them make a decision. It's none of your business. Stick to your own people or stick to your own events. Okay, that's my opinion. Anyways. But like even Gabriel George even said, you know, he says, this isn't Métis territory. This project impacts territories of at least 6 to 7 local nations, affecting your cultural heritage, archaeological sites, and the environment, etc. Your local, yeah, and he's right. Like, you know, like, leave them alone. This is their territory. Let them, if they want to name the bridge, name it. Just approach them saying, we would like you to name the bridge. How would you like your community to come together and name the bridge? Great, do it. But leave the freaking bridge alone, Métis Nation BC. God, you guys got better things to do than trying to make yourself a territory. You're not in Calgary. You're not in Edmonton or Lethbridge. That's where a lot of the Métis actually migrated to. They even tried one in Calgary called Louis Riel Trail. Anyways, I'm going to love you and leave you, folks. I want to thank you guys for being part of Métis Matters Radio as well as here in the chat room. And thank you guys for being in the chat room. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week. In the meantime and in between time, that's another edition. And if you want to find more programs, or if you can actually find, if you want to send me any information or anything that's new in the community, you can contact me, métismattersradio@gmail.com. Kwapitani now, guys. You take good care of each other, and we'll see you guys next week.